I will consult with Peter then. Perhaps he will know of a suitable lodging. I suppressed a groan. There were two sorts of men my father admired, learned men and men of religion, and my older brother, Peter, an aspiring priest who had taken a teaching job at the soon-to-be-opened Boston College, had the happy distinction of falling into both categories. For the past few years, Father had been in the habit of consulting him about any business involving the family, which, since my older sister Hannah was a cloistered nun, generally meant my business. As Peter had often told Father that I was overindulged, I could imagine only with the greatest trepidation what sort of lodging, short of a convent, he would consider suitable. It was true that he had no more than a charity school education, and that he felt this keenly, but he could read anything put in front of him, and wrote a beautiful hand. He could add and subtract long figures in his head, while others, Peter included, were scratching their pens on papers and frowning over their errors. Weeks passed, and I was resigning myself to staying with the Mrs. Donovan and getting used to their untuned piano, when, in late September, Father came to see me again, this time with Peter, come all the way from Boston to see to my affairs, at his side.
"Peter has found an ideal situation for you, Nora. A widow, Mrs. Surratt, is moving to Washington from the country and will be taking in boarders at her house on H Street. She's a very respectable lady."
A respectable widow sounded to me little better than an old maid, but I nodded politely.
"She's been keeping a tavern and bar in Surrattsville, in Prince George's County in Maryland,"
my brother informed my father. I noticed Peter was prematurely balding, unlike Father, who at age 64 still had a full head of gray hair.
"A bar?"
Father, who had never been a drinking man, frowned.
"Her husband ran the bar, and it was necessary for her to continue with that line of business in order to live. She has long wished to give it up, she told Father Wiget, and move to Washington, but it was not until recently, when the tenant here failed to renew his lease, that this became a realistic possibility."
My father's expression lightened.
"She knows Father Wiget, then?"
As well as being the priest of St. Aloysius, he was the president of Gonzaga College, where Peter had been both a pupil and a teacher.
"Yes, she has known him for many years, and her sons were at his school of St. Thomas Manor before it closed."
I perked up. Mrs. Surratt had sons?
"She has had a difficult life, Father Wiget tells me. Her husband was adopted by a family of substance and inherited a handsome estate, but he was a poor businessman and a heavy drinker, and squandered much of his holdings, and the war did the rest. They have only the tavern and the house in Washington."
My brother glanced at me.
"Nora, I have spoken rather freely. I hope that if you do go to live with Mrs. Surratt, you will treat what I have said as matters of confidence."
"Yes," I said. In truth, I had been too busy wondering about Mrs. Surratt's sons, 2, 3, more, handsome, to care about her difficult life.
"Are her sons much about the house?" Father asked. "The elder is serving with the Confederate Army, coming from where they do, that is to be expected, though, and the younger helps his mother with her affairs. Father Wiget sees the younger one occasionally, when business takes him to Washington, and knows him to be of good character. But what makes this situation ideal, and I believe more congenial for Nora than her present one, is that Mrs. Surratt has a daughter, an accomplished young lady of 21. She will, therefore, have a suitable companion." "It sounds ideal," said Father. "I knew that you would come up with something."
Peter nodded, modestly.
"Of course, I must meet this lady and satisfy myself that Nora will be safe in her care, but I am sure that is merely a formality. Is she living here now?" "No, her business necessitates her staying in Surrattsville for a while longer, but her daughter will be moving here to set up the house." "Then, if Nora is agreeable—"
I nodded. "We will drive over there on Saturday."